Jacob Belchak asks, oh, a commercial. And if it's not one commercial, it'll be another 4.5 minutes. I got to keep moving, though, because we have the YouTube fans, and they can't be kept waiting. So Jacob Belchak asks, how would you convince 18-year-old Bill to adopt the same conservative values as current age Bill? Wow. What an incredibly interesting question, and what an incredibly simple answer. I would have convinced 18-year-old Bill. Well, first of all, 18-year-old Bill had most of the conservative values that 55-year-old Bill has. It's 22-year-old Bill and 24-year-old Bill and 29-year-old Bill that probably needed a bit of a talking to. But what you're basically saying is your younger self. How would I have convinced my younger self to have these conservative values? Most of them, as I said, were already there. I never won a day when I didn't love the military, never won a day when I didn't love America, and I never won a day when I didn't think business was the way to go. So most of that was there. But in terms of all the rest of the crap I believed, I would have convinced myself to adopt conservative values by daring myself to do what I dare other people to do today. And that is, does this work? Which way are the rafts going? I think that's it. Honestly, I come to it every single time, probably every single show, but it's just the end of the argument, right? Which way are the rafts going, dummy? Which way are the rafts going? And you can apply that argument to just about anything. Watch what a market does. If I was going to talk to my younger self and try to convince myself of the foundation of these things, the first thing I would have said is, Bill, the reason they're conservative values is because they've worked for a long time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not something better, but it does mean that during the time that these values have become codified, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of new ideas came and went, and they were horrible. So conservative ideas are ideals, and conservative philosophies and principles are principles because they work. Because if they didn't work, they would have been discarded, and they wouldn't have been maintained. They wouldn't have been conserved. So we conserve these things because they work. Single, monogamous relationships seem to be the way to raise the most capable, happy, successful, productive children. There may be a better way, but we haven't found it yet. And if there's a better way coming up, then everybody will be doing that. That argument in itself is really pretty much of a deal killer, because a deal maker, I suppose I should say. They're there because they work. Is there a better system than capitalism? I suppose it's possible. It hasn't come up yet. This is the best system we have so far. Does that mean we shouldn't try something new? Not necessarily, but it does mean that if we keep trying the same thing that everybody says is new, and every time we try it, there's 50 million people dead. If they tried it and there were 50 million people dead in the Soviet Union, and then, oh no, we didn't do it right. And then they try it again in China, and they say, oh, we killed another $50 million. Oh no, you didn't do it right. And then they try it, in Cuba, and you kill 5 million people. No, you didn't do it right. You try it in Vietnam, you kill 7 million people. Didn't do it right. Try it in Cambodia, you kill 5 million or 7 million people. Didn't do it right. Comes a point when you start asking yourself, maybe we shouldn't be doing this at all if this is the way it turns out. How many times do we have to kill a few million people before we begin to realize maybe it can't be done right? That thought ever cross your mind? Maybe this is the end result of these kind of things. These are the kind of discussions I would have had with myself, and I was rational enough to get them. It's just no one ever talked to me about this stuff. I never heard it, never heard a word of it. And that was, again, folks, that was 79 when I got to college, 79, 80. So, it's gotten a lot worse since then. I think anybody with reason can understand these things. I did a speaking engagement last weekend. I'm going out again coming weekend. Then I'm home for a while. And I had a couple of young Republicans at the first event I did on Saturday. And I had some young people at the second one too. And at the second one especially, they came up to me afterwards and they were like blown away. Now they were inclined, right? I mean, they were on our team. But they said, we used to not, we just discovered this conservative thing just a little while ago. And man, you if you speak at colleges, you'll change the world. And I think when they were talking about it, they said, it's not just that the way you put things are very simple and easy to understand, but you're not fossilized. You can do a Stewie impression. You can you You know who Kanye West is. You know how to, you know what iTunes are. You know how to, you know what an app is. You know what's, you can talk about Skype, and you can talk about Shazam, and all this stuff. And you know what a meme is, and all this stuff. And they said it gives us something to hold on to. And I thought, yeah. So, the principles speak for themselves, and you can get people very, very easily convinced if you just get down to a pretty simple argument. All right, moving along.